Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Hello, Cobbs Corner family, and welcome to another episode of Cobbs Corner, your one-stop shop for all things TV, film, and pop culture. If this is your first time listening, then welcome, and to my returning listeners, welcome back to Cobbs Corner. I hope you all enjoy your stay here. Today is the 96th episode of Cobbs Corner, so thank you for listening and sharing this broadcast. We are on the road to Money in the Bank. No, we're not. We're on the road to 100 episodes. In today's episode, of course, the AFI is taking us to the Bed-Stuy neighborhood of Brooklyn, New York in Do the Right Thing. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the official closer for my series with Preston and EZ Bluez. It has been a fun past couple of episodes. Thank you guys for coming and doing. We've already done what have we done? Rocky, Platoon, Pulp Fiction, and now we're closing it out with Do the Right Thing.
Yes,
So,
sir.
Thank you guys for joining me for today's episode and for the past 3 episodes. I don't have the applause button.
That's okay.
Queued up.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. We got
Hooray,
you.
hooray. Yes. I was gonna say it's like
We're all in this
please.
together.
It's like
There you
please keep a warm Cobbs Corner welcome. Please, I know easy. You always say before your episodes, like, please put your hands together, but not if you're driving. If you're driving, please keep your hands attended to. We don't need any accidents.
Very important. I don't want no accidents, man.
Very important, because I'm usually driving when I'm listening to Preston and EZ Bluez. I'm usually
A lot
driving.
of people are.
I'm usually driving to work. I'm driving home. Same goes for people listening to Cobbs Corner. If you're driving, please keep your hands attended to. We do not need any accidents. All right. I better not I better not turn on News 12 or News 8 and then find out that there was a car accident, and then we come to find out that it was one of my listeners, and then I'm involved, and no. No, because I want to have a booth at DiasporaCon one of these days. You know what I'm saying?
It was fun. It was you definitely something that I actually got tattooed at DiasporaCon.
All right.
Got the Millennium Falcon on the back of my neck.
Millennium Falcon, every Star Wars fan's favorite ship. I used to have not the Legos, but I think it was like after The Force Awakens came out, for Christmas it was like a toy Millennium Falcon, and
Nice.
and it had like the back that opened. I think we had like a small like Finn and like Poe Dameron. Like it was. This is going back like 10 years, but
That's cool.
yeah, Millennium Falcon. Funny how Star Wars, A New Hope is the only Star Wars movie that I've done.
Really?
But yeah, I did.
No,
I did listen.
you chose the best one. You chose the best one.
That's one, really? It's the
Empire
only one.
was the best one.
I was gonna say Empire,
The Empire's good, but the first one's always good to me. I always like the first one.
Okay.
It's a sentimental value for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I see you.
Makes sense. Star Wars is the only one to actually make the AFI Top 100. To be
Right.
fair, so that's how I came across it. But yeah, it looks like you guys had an amazing time at DiasporaCon, and the Shane Penguins album got released. I haven't listened to it. My apologies.
It's okay. No worries. Not a lot of people have. Don't worry about it. It's not just you.
Oh, okay.
That was a joke. Again, we got to keep things light. No, at the end of the day, art is out there, and it's for everyone to, everyone to process and get there. When you have the right time and the right moment for it, and it's the right moment to have the record playing, it'll be the right time, and you'll get to appreciate, the art for what it is.
Oh, absolutely. I did like the fact that you guys, for DiasporaCon, now I only listened to the audio. I didn't watch the actual video episode, but I know you guys did a live episode of Three Nerds Venting with the professor, someone who I have yet to meet. And, I, at some point, maybe it doesn't have to be the DiasporaCon, but I think at some point, like the next time I'm on your platform, maybe if we can do a live episode, only because, we're all here in the state of Connecticut. So, You know, it's not
Oh,
that I
you mean
don't.
like all of us in the same room?
Yeah. If that,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, that's probable.
Right. Like, okay, well, not live episode, in person
Yeah, in
episode.
I
person.
understand. I
You
understand.
know?
I understand.
We actually just did one with SOBs, which was dope.
SOBs is
Stars of Beyond. That's an independent hip hop group based out of
oh,
Bridgeport.
okay.
Easy and I were guests on their platform, so they have their own very own podcast, very R-rated, but it was very fun,
so much
very
fun.
fun time. And we were there for I got 3 hours, but
Wow.
it felt so quick. It felt like really 15, 20 minutes. But
Yeah, it
we
was like
talked.
15, 20 minutes. I mean, we were only
Yeah.
there for 2 shots. I mean, I swear we could have done more shots. It would have
Yeah,
been fine.
we could have been there for a long time, but it was just so much going on. But it was a good experience. So there was a lot happening within these past couple weeks with us. Very, very enriching. Very enriching.
Yes.
I'm sure. Big shout out to you. Said Styles of Beyond.
Stars
Stars
Yeah.
of Beyond.
Styles of Beyond is a good hip hop group too.
I was gonna say
Listen to
Styles of
them.
Beyond.
Styles of they're a good hip hop group, but Stars of Beyond from
Stars of
Bridgeport, very, very talented.
Okay, yeah, I'll have to look them up, and shout out to Stars of Beyond if you're listening, and
Of course.
can't wait to have you guys on Cobb's Corner or vice versa. So
That'd be fun.
yeah, one of my favorite episodes of yours that I listened to recently was when you had Joey Bats on, and he talked about the hip hop for the homeless, and I always think back to how like the amount of celebrities and artists that you find out like were once homeless. Like I think it was I can only really think of like Ed Sheeran was homeless at one point. I want to say Tyler Perry might have been homeless.
Yep.
Paris homeless. Yeah.
Yeah,
Jewel.
Tyler Perry. Oh, who? Jewel?
Jewel.
I don't think I've heard of Jewel.
You have. She was a singer-songwriter, and
I think before his time.
No, it was still.
I think before
Who
his
You Saved
time.
Was Soul was already. It was on.
It-
It was on the radio when he was pushing around the shopping cart. He heard it once or twice.
Oh, but
He was in his own world, bro. He was
She
in the
just
best
won
time of
Masked
his
Singer
life.
like 5 years ago.
oh, okay. What was the name of the song?
Morgan, I got
Who
your back,
Saved His
bro.
Soul.
It's before your time, man. Morgan, I got your back, brother. Before your time, it's okay.
She was in the Rob Lowe roast as well.
Rob Lowe roast.
Morgan, I got your back, brother. It's okay, man.
Roast.
It's
The
all right.
roast of Rob Lowe.
I got
bro.
your back, Morgan. It's okay. You have none to be ashamed about, bro. Like, I've come to a point in my time, certain generations don't know what I'm talking about, and it's all right.
Yes.
But Easy and I can send you some links to Stars. We can send you some links to Jewel. We can send you some, some little stuff. It's never too late to learn about these great talents. Never,
Absolutely.
never too late. Absolutely, man.
Exactly.
We got your back, bro.
Absolutely. Just send me those links, and then I promise when we do 7 Samurai, I'm gonna know every pop culture reference that you guys.
Seven Samurai, such a good one.
All right.
But no, it's so interesting because there's been a bunch of people who've been homeless or couch surfing. Mark Hamill, actually, if I'm correct, I don't remember which particular comedian it was, but he was staying on someone's couch. I want to say it was Robin Williams' couch. He was staying on someone's couch when he was offered the role of Luke Skywalker.
Okay.
So it's the artistic aspect of it. There is some time where you're like, I'm going to give everything up for the art, and sometimes that actually means like a roof over your head.
Yeah.
Give up literally everything.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of success stories that have come from hip hop artists and from modern day celebrities. Many of them. Particularly those who are new money, particularly those who your last name is not Hilton, it's not Kardashian, it's not Smith, Rockefeller, Coppola, and that's not a stab at any of those names. And I say those names with respect, but when you're like the first in your family to break that mold, maybe if that means being the first in your family to say, I'm not going to go to college, or or you say I'm not going to follow that traditional path because I have my own vision for where I want to go in the future. And if that means, like you said, easy, sacrificing a roof over my head, then so be it. And then I like the fact that there's so many of these famous people who, used to couch surf or, who used to be homeless, because then I feel like that just inspires the up and coming, like the next generation of people who maybe are, struggling. Because I feel like a lot of times we see the highlight reel, we don't see the behind the scenes. So I think
It's true.
being able to hear the testimonies and hear the stories of people, like in particular, I think Joey Bats had talked about how there was a show where one of his one of the artists who performed, it was a full circle moment for him because he used to be homeless.
Yep.
And now here he is giving a free concert for the homeless.
Right.
So like there's those full circle moments, and you never know who's in the crowd, really.
Mm-hmm.
You never know who, what I mean? Kind of like with my podcast, I never know who's listening to this podcast episode, now or 10 years from now, and that's the great thing about art and, not just podcasts and music, but also movies. Is like you can always, watch them at one point in your life and then revisit it 10 years later, and you see something that you didn't see when you first viewed it. And then, it's just there, and it's like tangible, and it's there forever for you and for the next generation and the generation after that. So I think it's really great, what you guys are doing on your podcast, even the mental health CT episode. So I feel like every time I listen to your podcast, like I'm just learning something new, and I'm just like,
that's awesome.
It's like it's a whole experience. Like the Preston and EZ Bluez podcast, like it is a whole vibe. It is a whole experience. It is a whole giving me new locations to go to in, again, the state of Connecticut. It's not like I've lived here my whole life or anything, but I'm all of it. Like I was just in Litchfield for the first time yesterday. I'm like, this is a really nice town. Like
they got a good whiskey too. They distill some Litchfield. I want to say it's a bourbon, but yeah.
Litchfield bourbon.
Litchfield has a distillery. Okay. And they make a bourbon, which is really good.
Okay, yeah, I know there's a Hawk Ridge Winery. That's actually here in Watertown where I live. But yeah, no, there's a lot of nice spots throughout the state of Connecticut and throughout. I feel like every time I drive back into the state of Connecticut, whether from coming, I think when you're driving in from Rhode Island, it says like Connecticut, home of the submarine capital of the world, and then on the Connecticut-Massachusetts border, it's like home of the pizza capital of the world, and it's like I'm wondering, like, I guess New Haven is considered the pizza capital of the world, but again, it's like it's a city that I haven't been to in forever. That it's like,
well. Here's the thing. I know that they went to Congress and everything, and they begged and pleaded as much as humanly possible, and they threw a bunch of money at it to try to get it to be a good tourist aspect of it. So that's something that was bought and sold, and you can totally see when those things are created, and it's needed.
Such a politician answer. Oh my God!
You can see it for.
Accept it. It's okay. I understand you're from New York.
It was a political thing.
Oh my God!
It was a political move. I understand the political move. I'm not crying, bro.
River. Oh man, it feels so good to be number one.
World's tiniest violin.
Yeah, exactly. Playing My Heart Bleeds For You.
Number one. Oh my God, it's okay.
Yes.
Yes. Not everybody's gonna like you when you're number one. It's all right. It's all right, bro.
It's fair. It's
understandable. It's all right. You know what I mean? It's fine.
Yeah.
See, if they were right with their advertising, it would be on the border of Connecticut and.
I mean, if we were right with our advertising, it would be a pizza capital of the United States. Oh wait, we are. So it's okay.
Yeah, the same place that is trying to reclaim the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of America. Come on, bro.
What have I started?
Listen, man.
Come on, bro.
We about to have two different shows, bro. I don't want to respect his platform.
Oh man,
I really want to respect this man's platform. We're about to have two different shows.
Tony, you're about to get me like banned in a state.
Yeah, man.
Like, okay,
we're about to get you banned. We're about to expand your mind. That's two different things.
That too. You know, I
You're
mean,
about to change your demographic.
of course.
Saying.
Okay, I'm about to be like, no, better yet, I personally am about to be banned from like probably my favorite place to visit. Okay, you know, shout out to the city of New York. Okay, you know, I'm a proud Connecticutian. I'm from Connecticut, but you know, I
You know how many
love
fights
going
New
out to New
Yorkers
York
have with
City.
people from Connecticut right now? It's crazy. The fights was
What?
going to be never
Oh,
ending.
it's hysterical. It is so
Insane.
funny for no apparent reason. It's
Google
the
it,
dumbest
Tik
stuff.
Tok it. It's the best thing ever.
It is
Oh,
the
no.
dumbest thing, but it's so funny because it's so petty. It's beautiful.
Oh
to
yeah,
see the
the pettiest will never stop. It's the
both states.
never-ending petty
And-
war.
And it's understandable because like looking perspective and different stuff like that, it is very tough for Connecticut. You're between two hard markets, you know. So you have the New York market, you have the Boston market, and those are very two hard markets to crack through. And I'm just talking about pop culture wise to try to crack through anything that. I'm not taking a shot. I know I see the smile on Preston's face, waiting for me to drop.
No, I'm just waiting for the climax.
There's no climax.
I'm
I'm merely stating facts. I understand
waiting.
Why they have to fight so hard to
it may not happen now. It may not happen later. It may happen within the program or at the end, but you will say something. I've known you forever.
I'm just saying it's very Jan Brady of you.
See that's
I picked the right movie. I picked the right movie to I definitely picked the right movie
because the pizza place is in the movie.
Pizza place is in the movie. Okay, pizza place is literally in the movie. All right, you know, Denny and all my listeners in the state of New York, okay, in all 5 boroughs, you know, from Staten, Brooklyn, Queens, Bronx, Harlem, Yonkers, you know, I love you all, okay? I mean, for me, I'm just so used to New York style pizza, and you know, I think when I was growing up, we would go to Modern Pizza, which it was on State Street. It's like right next to where my middle school was at the time.
I think they just got nominated to be #1 this time around. They usually rotate between 3 of you guys, between the 3 of them. That's the one that seems to be sitting at #1 this year.
Yeah, thanks. I got the list. Yeah, they did a new list of top Connecticut places.
Okay, so probably between like Modern, Pepe's, and like
Sally's.
Yeah, Sally's, okay, yeah, because I heard that Sally was actually Frank Pepe's sister who started her own pizza spot.
I mean, I'm sure there's a whole bunch of lore, and a lot of it's probably nonsense if we're being honest. You know, these guys have been going back for a long period of time. I know that there was some sort of relationship between the two. I just don't know if it was like coworker or sister or something along those lines.
You are right. They did separate. It was like, I think, professional differences, not personal. Right. So that family member left to start their own chain, which became Sally's.
Right.
And Sally's is good. Sally's is good.
I like Sally's sauce better. You know what I'm saying?
Sally's has the best sauce. I do agree. I think
Sally's sauce is better. It's got better ingredients. It's less WT.
Potential sponsorships. All of you. Yep. I got you know, it's like this episode of Cobbs Corner is done live from Sally's Pizza Spot.
Word.
I'm gonna get I'm gonna get like a pizza named after me. You know what I'm saying? Like we just gotta have like.
Listen, man, I'll try it and make sure.
There's already a salad named after you, so why shouldn't there be a pizza?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying, right? A Cobb salad. I'm telling you. You get the Cobb special. You know what I'm saying? Pizza, salad, wings. Not every pizza spot needs wings, though. Tell me.
No, not every pizza spot needs wings. That's real.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's something I agree with. Not every pizza spot needs wings.
Yeah, there's a place here in Watertown, and probably gonna like by the end of this episode not be allowed to go to the grocery store anymore.
Nice.
But like there's a place, and I'm not gonna name it, and they like their garlic parmesan is just like all parmesan and like no garlic.
I hate that.
It's like oh yeah, we do garlic parmesan except for the garlic part, we just gonna give you all parmesan.
Is it all watery, the sauce?
A bit, yeah.
I hate
it's one of those
watery
spots.
Sauces. Oh man, you got it.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
It's like
I'm
a lot
you went through that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a lot of times you just gotta like get what the place is known for. Like if it's a pizza spot, I'm getting a pizza. If I go to IHOP, I'm not getting a burger. I'm getting pancakes. So I don't care if it's I don't care if it's 6 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock at night. I'm getting pancakes. I'm not getting a burger. I don't know if this whole IHOB thing was like International House of Burgers. I'm like, this is the most like only in America. This is why the And this is what happens when you have two parents that work and have one parent that works in public health. I'm like, you know, like this was a failed marketing scheme, but I'm not
It
surprised.
ain't bad. It ain't bad.
No, but well,
Ain't-
here's the thing. It made the company a lot of money, and it's something you're still talking about today. So it's not something that was a bad investment, because you're still saying the name of IHOP. You're still saying the name of IHOP. You know, you're still talking about that aspect of it. And now there might be someone like, oh, they had a whole burger phase. I didn't know that IHOP had a burger phase.
Yeah.
So it's something that it was a gamble. It was a marketing gamble that paid its dividends. You know, people were talking about it. People, you know, it got a lot of free press. You know, so I don't look at it really as a failure. I look at it more as we as the American public are gullible as fudge.
And to elaborate more on what you just said, I know with the whole pancake and burger thing, but that's why the acronyms are being promoted now. Like, for example, KFC, like they don't say Kentucky Fried Chicken really anymore in their marketing. They're not going to shy away from what they sell, the main cause, but they're promoting different items and variety in their thing. Look at Dunkin' Donuts. Dunkin' Donuts, they took the donuts out. It's
Right.
just Dunkin'
It's
now.
just Dunkin' and like.
So because they give so much more than just the donuts. They're giving you sandwiches. They're giving you like little, they're giving you literally bacon snacks. The snack is bacon.
They're giving you the wrong order.
They're giving you the wrong order.
Telling you, easy. You about to, okay. We are like building up some bridges and we're burning others. Like, I feel like that's just like,
I mean,
like,
that's one thing I'm with him on. New York got some good coffee.
Yeah.
New York got better coffee. I go with coffee. I go with New York and then Northeast.
Yep.
Like that's two separate to me. Like New York City coffee, on point.
It's different.
Like us, we can settle good at number 2 when it comes to coffee. So I'll give Easy credit on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I'll actually take it a step further. I think New York, they're good for, well, I guess, okay, I'll give you the pizza, easy, okay? You know, pizza.
It's fair.
You know, pizza, you know, especially if it's raised pizza, but coffee and the Chinese food as well, you know? I mean, the Chinese food.
Let's not forget the breakfast sandwiches. Nothing ties a good New York bacon, egg, and cheese. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
A good bacon, egg, and cheese is and that's actually, I judge every town. Like when I went to Philly for the play conference, I went to a bodega and I was like, "Can I get a bacon, egg, and cheese?" And you know, they made it. It was okay. It wasn't great. It wasn't horrible. It was a decent, okay breakfast thing that I had a cup of really rough coffee with, because Philly is not that great of coffee. But it was also one bodega spot. I don't look at that as like all of Philly. I just look at that one spot as like, it was kind of weak today.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, I will say when I was in Chicago back in February, I tried the Chicago deep dish and I just wasn't a fan.
Oh, it's lasagna. It's lasagna.
Pretty much. But I also have to recognize, like, you know, I'm not from the Midwest. I'm not from Chicago. They say it's the second city, you know, second to New York.
That's fair.
But I'm just so used to like the New York style pizza, just having been to New York so many times growing up, and I still go there to this day. And you know, I mean, Connecticut, our pizza's not that different from New York. So I'm just used to a certain like style of pizza that like the Chicago deep dish. I'm like, it's too much cheese.
That's fair.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, really the only true difference is from what my brother said, who worked in both New York Pizza and CT Pizza, is yeast. That's really the yeast. Yeah, there's a little bit more yeast in New York dough than there is in New Haven dough.
I can see that. Yep.
No, I'm just going to remain professional on your podcast because I don't want to like go off on a tangent. You know, I just want to remain professional during this because, you know, I will go off because, you know, it's not, the yeast is perfect in New Haven. That's all I got to say.
No, I didn't say it was better or worse. I said it was the only difference. That's the difference between
the two. Okay. Thank you for elaborating, my friend.
I was just saying that's the only difference.
Thank you for elaborating.
You know,
this is not the only time you will elaborate on this topipic.
No, I will have this conversation. I grew up like every Saturday morning for me. Not only was it the Saturday morning cartoons, but then I would get up and I would go to karate class, and I would take karate from 10 o'clock in the morning until like 6 o'clock at night. And I'd walk over to the pizzeria and we'd have our lunch at the pizzeria. It would be 2 slices and a soda for like $5 back in the day when you actually could get some good stuff.
Sure, that goes about 10, 12 now.
Yeah, it's like 10, 12 for 1 slice and the soda. And the soda's $4. You're like, what?
Oh,
what's going
God.
on? Yeah, like, why am I spending $4 for a 20-ounce of soda?
Yeah.
But my last New York compliment is the customer service is 10 times better. Like I got my food so fast and efficient. It's not even funny. Like Connecticut, no disrespect. You got most places you gotta wait. Most places you gotta wait. And I see why, you know, people who come over here, because New York is really high. We complain that it's high rent and Connecticut, but there's nowhere compared to New York.
Right.
So when they come over here and they experience the customer food service over here, I could see the impatience, because when I was over there just visiting family and stuff and, you know, doing cool New York things, I got my food within like 2 to 3 minutes after I ordered. That's the craziness of it. And it can be even from the smallest location to the biggest location. Like they're on point when it comes to efficiency. I say New York is definitely more efficient.
Oh yeah,
Definitely. That's my last one.
Yeah, I mean,
it has a lot to do with the fact you got like 8 million people there. You know what I'm saying?
That
so
is true.
You've got a constant flow of stuff, so you've got to stay on top of your meats and plots has to be dead.
And
on.
I love it. And I love it. I ain't going. I too love it.
Yeah, I got you. I got you.
Yeah, but
I think so good.
Yeah, I think there's a couple times I was working in Stratford. This was like summer 2021, and after work, I know because there's a on East Main Street. There's like a Chipotle and there's a Popeyes. It's by the Dock Shopping Center. If any of you know that area, and I went to the Popeyes after work, and all I wanted was a chicken sandwich, and they ran out of chicken, and I had to wait. Like I was in there for like an hour. All I wanted was like a chicken sandwich and like
that's
something.
understandable. That's understandable.
Yeah. And then there's been a couple times I go to McDonald's and like I drive up to the window. They don't say nothing. Go drive to the window. They don't say nothing. They just take your car.
Which McDonald's though?
Which one are you at? Because
you know what I'm saying, like
there's certain
there's levels when it comes,
because there's certain Popeyes I won't go to.
There's some McDonald's where I know the customer service is going to be good,
it's going to be great, or it's going to be garbage.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I guess I found that ironically the customer service is better at the McDonald's in New Haven. There's one I think in like the West. I think there's one because I went to elementary school. Shout out to Beecher Magnet School in New Haven on Jewel Street. And there's a McDonald's not too far from there. I think that's Westville. I forget the exact street, but it's like headed towards 63. And there's McDonald's. It's like right next to like Pio of Italy and like past the Church of Scientology, I think.
Past the first church or the second church?
Oh, I know which one you're talking about. Yep. Yes. Yes. That's a good one.
Yeah, the one in between Westville and
near I think it's near a CVS, near a CVS or Walgreens. That one.
Yeah, that one.
That CVS is a brand new CVS. If you're heading in a certain direction on the road, the right lane.
Near Woodbridge, pretty much. Near Woodbridge.
Yeah, Woodbridge.
Yeah.
The right lane becomes a turn lane, and you can only go only straight in the left lane.
Yeah,
I remember. Yeah, I used to work at Amity Wine and Spirits, so I know that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I've driven through because I grew up because I went to school in New Haven, but I grew up in Naugatuck, so like I've driven up and down that road, morning.
Okay,
afternoon.
cool. That's awesome.
But yeah, I guess that's my home state. So if any of you guys are listening from outside of Connecticut, come visit. Like my mom literally sent me a video the other night about how like Connecticut it's sandwiched between two metropolises, and how there's been so many jokes have been made about the state of Connecticut, and how like it's viewed as like this wealthy state, but like we don't have a real like metropolis of our own. Like we don't have a New York City or a Boston. It's like we have Hartford, we got New Haven, but like we don't have like a place that's like the outside world like really knows, that's like really well known. I mean, kind of New Haven for Yale, but like, no.
To an extent, I disagree. Hartford's like pretty well known.
Mm-hmm.
Believe it or not, Every time I go outside of the state, everybody always mentions Waterbury, either for good or for bad. So they
Oh.
always mention Waterbury, like because we have so many towns and cities with the last name of Berry.
Mhm.
And a lot of people have like family like scattered around the United States with that. Just from my perception. I'm not saying it's an overall statistic, for us in
All right.
Connecticut. But Waterbury, and definitely Hartford and Yukon too.
Oh,
Yeah.
wait, UConn. Right.
Yeah, because in my
That's another thing.
because
Like,
Yukon's its own country in my
Yeah. No, no,
Connecticut and there's Yukon.
yeah,
So
there's
yeah.
the Yukon. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That's another thing. It's like I feel like
yeah.
on the state borders, there's like, welcome to Connecticut, Governor Ned Lamont, I've seen home of the submarine capital of the world, home of the basketball capital of the world, home of the pizza capital of the
Yukon.
world.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, yeah, because Yukon. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, but Springfield has the
gonna
Basketball
say.
Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
I was like, how dare they? But then I'm like, UConn. I was like, okay, it makes
Yukon
sense.
basketball. It's
You know,
always
Yeah,
yeah.
UConn
we're known
basketball.
for that.
I remember watching UConn basketball, on Channel 3 because it was the only channel I had as a kid. And I was back on Long Island. So I've been a fan of UConn for a long time.
Dope. Yeah, I've been to, let's see, at the XL Center, I've been to one UConn men's game. This was back in 2009.
Mhm.
And I went to a UConn women's game. This was 2017. I remember because they beat Temple like 90-45. It was a blowout game, and it's funny because my cousin just graduated from Temple too. So but yeah, XL Center. I mean, as you guys know, I mean, kind of gonna transition into our next topic. I know we spent a lot of time debating over who holds sway over the pizza.
I will once again say there is no debate. You guys have your numbers and you have your things. I look at what happened behind the scenes. That's all I'm ever going to say.
Okay, it's fair. You know, well, I guess if you guys remember last episode, I had said that WrestleMania 41 was the
Right.
first WrestleMania that I watched. I've now watched my first WrestleMania. Let's see, first Royal Rumble, first Elimination Chamber, first WrestleMania, first Backlash. This will be my first Money in the Bank, June 7th.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, I mean, for me, I think the Jey Uso versus Gunther match, I feel like maybe that, not that it shouldn't have been the opener, but it was kind of underwhelming in my
I
opinion.
agree.
Yeah, it was
100% agree.
kind
I think unfortunately they had to do what they had the best story going into the whole thing, and they had the best build going to the whole thing, and they got relegated to go open. And I don't think they ever got out of the blocks from there. I think that it should have
Agreed.
been a main event. There's no reason why it shouldn't have been a main event. It could have been a co-main event. They've done it
Agreed.
before at WrestleMania where it's like the main event is Undertaker versus whoever and so for the championship. Could have easily been a co-main event. But I understand why, having a good, strong opening match is really, really important, especially for WrestleMania. But you don't want to have that payoff that quick. You know what I'm
Agreed.
saying? Like all the good vibes for the if you look at storytelling wise, all the good vibes were told night one, and then it was just a nightmare from night two.
yeah.
Yeah,
You
it
know
was
what I'm saying?
definitely as far as structure, it was definitely off with the card. That was my big pet peeves of the show.
Yeah, I think for me, night one, my favorite match was actually Jacob Fatu defeating LA Knight
Agreed.
for
Agreed. Fatu had the best match night
Yeah.
one. No dispute.
He's just
or
fun to
anything.
watch in the ring, period. Like
Yeah.
I could watch him, like they do in Japan. I could watch him wrestle, a blow-up doll, and it'd be fun to watch. And they do that in Japan. So
Wow.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Well, that's just to show how good you are as a technician. If you can make this inanimate object look good, then you're probably one of the best technicians out there.
Okay, makes sense. I just think maybe it's ironic that for me, the highlight of the night was, for a mid-card title, and a lot of times it's the main event is like kind of the world championships. Even for night two, and Now, I haven't watched. I think I missed the Monday Night Raw after Backlash, but as far as I'm concerned, Io, as far as I know, Io Sky is still the women's world champion. I know
Yeah, that
Julia
was my
just
favorite match.
yeah, Julia just joined SmackDown. Yep.
That was my favorite
That was
match.
my favorite match from night two as well. I guess between that and then also the return of Becky Lynch, but you know, I think you guys kind of predicted that that'll be a triple threat, and just seeing like those three styles of Io Sky, Bianca Belair, Rhea Ripley,
Mhm.
seeing the three of them together in the ring. Like
Well played.
I didn't realize like during the promos, like seeing all three of them together, like I realized like how much shorter Io is compared to like Rhea and Bianca Belair. Just like seeing her
Yeah,
just like casually getting like pushed out the way. I'm like, oh, I like it's like, oh,
she's
I didn't
so
realize she's such
talented
a
though. She's so good. She's so good though.
oh yeah.
Very talented wrestler. Yeah,
Yep.
and it disappoints me because it wasn't her full potential, because like throughout her past she's been really
Yeah.
to let go. But you know, she was working with two different styles, one with Rhea and one with Bianca, but they are such good at what they do. They're such great professionals. It worked out together. I'm trying to find the right word. It had great chemistry within the
Yeah.
whole entire match. Yeah.
Well, I think the three competitors have natural chemistry to begin with.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
like
Yeah.
any type of thing, you see what's going on. Even with the tag team match that they just had with Rhea Ripley and Io Sky versus Perez
Roxanne
and
Present,
Julia.
Julia. Yeah.
Yeah. You saw the chemistry that Rhea has with Io, and even when they got face to face, and then she turned around and smacked her in the butt. It's that type of really incredible chemistry with the two compatriots. That's why, like, I always loved watching, say, Hogan and Piper, because you could tell Piper actually hated Hogan. Now we all understand why Piper hated Hogan. Everyone's like, oh, I totally get it now. Bobby Heenan has been right this whole time. I would just like to say that in all of wrestling, Bobby Heenan was right the whole time. Hogan was actually the monster that they said he said he was.
Yeah, I mean, I can remember from the Mr. McMahon documentary, and big shout out to Hulk Hogan. I'd love to have you on the podcast. I'd love to, and big shout out to Mr. Hogan, and maybe I'll bring Easy on the
You will
podcast
draw
as well.
numbers.
You will draw numbers, and if you get me on as well, it will be big numbers for
Yes,
all the
yes,
wrong reasons.
yes. So shout out to Bret the Hitman Hart. I'd love to talk about the Montreal Screwjob. But I remember from the Mr. McMahon documentary that Hulk Hogan was really like Vince McMahon's like eyes and ears. Like he was almost like his sort of like, I don't know if lapdog is the proper term, but like
That's
from
the right term. That's the right term.
I
yep,
mean,
so
in
yeah,
prison terms,
lapdog,
he would be called a B.
of course. Well, yeah, but I think there was like two instances in particular. Like one was, of course, the steroid scandal, where I think Hulk Hogan, I think he went on the Arsenio Hall show and said that he's never used steroids and never used performance enhancing drugs. And then like a bunch of like other WWF wrestlers, like they all went to the press and said, one of them said, "I've personally administered steroids to Hulk Hogan." Like, and then the doctor that they were working with, he
Nice.
lost his license. But then when Hogan took the stand and he saved Vince McMahon from, going to prison. And then there was another time where I think Bret Hart talked about how he had missed once or twice he had missed opening Christmas presents with his kids because he had to perform, and how Vince McMahon had a lot of these guys working over 200 nights a year,
Mm-hmm.
and they wanted to, I forget the wrestler's name, but he wanted to start a wrestlers union.
Jesse the Body Ventura.
Oh, Jesse Ventura.
Actually sat down and was getting them together to unionize. And it's something that to this day is still talked about, where if the workers could unionize, they could get some better rates and different stuff like that. Because you got to also look at it, yes, these guys on the WWE scale are making millions of dollars. But the guy that is doing it as on the indie circuits may be making $25, has no health insurance, and could possibly break his neck. They just had the benefit for Chris. Why can't I remember his name? Chris Bay. They just had the benefit for Chris Bay when Chris Bay like really messed up his neck bad, and he actually walked down to the ring which was dope to see. But a lot of these guys don't have health benefits. A lot of these guys are doing it, on their own. And for the longest time, WWE was taking advantage of that. And it's only been as of recently. And when I say recently, I say within the last 20 years, WWE wasn't even giving these wrestlers rehab issues. You know what I'm saying? They were like, whatever, you deal with your issue. Now, if you have a problem, WWE will pay for you to be clean and sober. Which I think is really awesome. That's one of the good step aheads that they've done, because the industry itself is vicious, and what these guys put their bodies through is just amazing. What they're willing to do for just the love of it and for the experience with the fans. These guys are actors, but these guys are stuntmen and stunt ladies, and I think it's pretty dope.
Yeah,
I know. I think it was like 2 weeks before WrestleMania, it was announced that Kevin Owens would not be competing against Randy Orton because he's away having surgery now. I mean, and I think even Nick Aldis had even said, like, this is the most unfun part of the job. This is why we say don't try any of this at home. And, from hearing about, Kevin Owens having a bad neck injury and him even saying, I don't know the next time I'm going to stand in front of you guys. And,
he could be out for 5 years. Like that. The reality is he's got the same type of injury that Edge had. He could be out for 5 years.
Wow. But yeah, Edge, and I even heard that Kurt Angle, he was on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast, I think like last year before last. He talked about how there was how he has had some crazy injuries, and there was even once or twice where he actually was wrestling with a broken neck or something.
He won a gold medal. He won 2 gold medals with a broken freaking neck.
Right, but
that was actually part of his tagline. I remember if you going back in the day, especially when he was in TNA. I'm Kurt Angle and I won 2 gold medals with a broken freaking neck. So
I mean, I guess my next question: do you guys believe?
Of course,
I do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course.
Absolutely.
Of course. And I think, and you want to know something? I think it was a great spot filler. It was fun to see. He should have got smoked as quickly as he got smoked. He should not have given him any sort of time to show anything or sort of anything. In the main event, they should be on the main roster, they should be teasing him as much as possible. And then once his contract's up, just bring him up into the main roster. And I think he'll do fantastic. I also love the fact that, the next day, night 2, Joe Hendry appears, who actually was the lawyer for Rusev back in the day. And the first night on Raw, Rusev comes back to the company.
Yep, Rusev's back. Aldis Black is back. A lot of returns. Becky Lynch is back, and I know recently at Backlash she lost the match against Lyra Valkyria, who was her mentor. This is like a real, I don't know if the era is considered like reality era where they're like blending kind of like real life things into the storyline, but I feel like maybe the Lyra Valkyria Becky Lynch was maybe a never meet your heroes kind of moment.
Well, they've done it. They've done it a whole bunch of times in the WWE, especially for a while. They initially started it. I remember with Crash and Demolition, where he actually became a member of Demolition when one of the other members couldn't wrestle the whole time. So it's very, very interesting to see that they always. Wrestling, look, it's plain and simple. Like anything else, there's only but so many stories that can be told. So they're going to be repeating storylines and different things like that. You're going to see repeats that happen, and that whole never meet your hero storyline has been done so many times in professional wrestling. I think even they did one with Dusty Rhodes and Terry Funk back in the day.
Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
And their rivalry was so bad that even Dusty Rhodes would be at an airport and Terry Funk would run up behind him and talk trash and like you suck, and then walk around in another direction.
I see. Yeah. Gosh, what was I gonna say? I'm looking forward to Saturday night's main event in Tampa this coming Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, this episode, like your guys' podcast, like you guys say during three Nerds Venting, this is all pre-recorded, so I don't know the official day that this is coming out. Maybe it's already happened, but as of the recording of this podcast, it hasn't happened yet. So, I'm looking forward to seeing R-Truth versus John Cena and the Damian Priest versus Drew McIntyre. Their rivalry has just, um. But yeah, it's gonna be. I think it's like Tampa Takeover for the WWE. It's like Saturday Night Main Event, Sunday is Battleground, uh, and then Monday Night Raw, Tuesday night NXT.
And Tuesday NXT, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. But yeah, I know Preston. I feel like the last two episodes you've said that like it's an exciting time to be a fan, and I agree. It is it's an exciting time to be a fan. It's an exciting time to get back into wrestling, and I mean, I always feel like even when Aldous Black came back and when like Rey Fenix came in to the WWE, he's gonna, or no, Solo Sikoa is gonna be in the Money in the Bank ladder match, and Chelsea Green, who I didn't realize it was the inaugural United States champion, and
she was.
It was funny when Nick Aldis had said how like she's not even American. They said like you're not even American. He's like neither are you or you. Like you realize Piper Niven's Irish, Chelsea and the other member of the Secret Harvest are Canadian, and like so I've definitely been enjoying some of the segments and the gags, and like that was her whole like she had like a whole outfit, like her whole like persona was like women's United States champion, and she'll always be the inaugural United States champion, and then Zelina Vega just took the championship away, and so I mean it's been I guess it's also been a lot to keep up on because it's like I work during the day, and it's like I only have the time to like watch Monday Night Raw, and then Tuesday night NXT, and then it's like Friday night SmackDown. So it's like 3 nights a week. I'm just like, sitting on my phone, and it's like, I'm like, this is for 3 hours? Like, what?
Well, you want to know something? You do that with just the one company. Imagine being fans of multiple companies.
Oh,
where I'll sit sometimes and I'll watch like 13 hours worth of professional wrestling in a week. Just to see like some of how the art forms can come through. And I watch anything from like New Japan, GCW, all those other type of things. But yeah, the WWE I always looked at as like the pop market for it. That's your AM radio. Is your WWE, is your AM radio right now.
AM radio or AM or FM?
Okay. Back in the day, AM radio used to just be there to be the most pop culture aspect of it. You'd only hear the pop hits that would be on AM radio. FM radio is when you got a little bit more of the rock stuff in there and a little bit more of the deeper cuts on the albums. Now FM radio is what's become super, super popular. So there's been a switch, but the actual term was, it's pop music like AM radio.
Okay. Makes sense. Again, one of these days I'm going to make it to a PLE. I know this year, for the first time, they have a 2-night SummerSlam hosted by Cardi B. Can't wait to have you on the podcast. MetLife Stadium. I think it's August 2nd and 3rd. From our last episode, it's my understanding that Preston, you've been to a few PLEs.
I have.
Is there anything you'd like to share that with the Cobbs Corner family, or
it's okay to get a high seat. It's okay. It's not going to ruin your experience.
Yeah,
it's not going to ruin your experience getting a seat all the way up top, as long as you know what you're getting into, because it may be a little tight in that area. Pause.
Word.
But it's all about vibe, and it's all about the energy, and go with the right people. It's okay to go with just one person. It's okay to go with just 2 people. You do not need a huge group unless it's, planned right. But it's okay even to go by yourself sometimes, to go to a show and to experience it the way you want to experience it. I suggest eating before you go there. because a lot of stuff, it's stadium prices.
Expensive.
It's really expensive. So I suggest eating before or eating after or whatever. But spend as less money as possible when it comes to concession. Don't feel bad that you're gonna miss something because it is recorded anyway, and you're there for the experience. Don't try to overthink it. Just enjoy the show.
Well said. Well said.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's almost like you're going to a live movie in a way.
Well, and it is kind of like a live movie. And what's really cool is I actually got to go to a PLE with Preston for NXT. And what was so amazing was they had these little tiny belts, and our friend Alan could finally have a belt his size. And that was the most important thing that I saw. There was finally a belt the size for Alan, and they were going to go for the super cruiserweight belt.
Okay. That's what's up. Yeah, I realized that we've got Worlds Collide coming up because I know WWE just acquired AAA, and
which is interesting.
Yep. Like, it's my understanding that, like, in Lucha Libre, it is like a cardinal sin to ever tear the mask off of a lucha, off of a luchador. But I keep theorizing, who is El Grande Americano, and are we gonna find out with the new merger? Like, is that
I love this storyline. I love this. This is the same story, but again, this is the same storyline of people used to go back and forth with Gregory Helms and the Hurricane. You know what I'm saying? So I appreciate it and I respect it, and I hope they keep going with it because it's just fun and it's stupid. And sometimes entertainment just needs to be stupid. Yeah. I hope he has as many loaded mask shots as possible. And I love every aspect of it. And yes, in Lucha Libre, the traditional form of Lucha Libre, ripping off someone's mask is massively disrespectful and is like a punishment worse than death. But
you can do it with this character.
Yeah, you can do it with this character.
You can definitely do it with this character. So it's not cardinal sense.
People also have to remember that Eddie Guerrero was masked for a while.
Yeah, right. And it was his decision to not, But I'm not really a big fan of the acquisition. Respectfully, of course. I love it when these corporations are good on their own, but I don't know, the whole science behind the deal. If that's the better wording for it. I feel it's not needed for them. I don't feel a win is good for either company. I like the company being on its own. I feel it may be tarnished just a little bit, being owned by different, but being owned by number one, the Mecca. You know what I'm saying? It is the number one company in the world. So I feel they're going to tarnish it and tweak it. And it's not going to feel the same when you watch it. It's going to be their version of what they perceive is traditional lucha style wrestling. So I'm not really I want to see how everything plays out before I come to a good decision. But as far as the announcement of the deal, as a wrestling fan for a long time, I'm not too excited about it. I'm not at all. Because I feel a lot of people are going to get cut that shouldn't get cut up and cut. You know what I mean? There's so much behind it, and I don't want to get too technical with it because I know we have a lot to talk about in this program.
No, you want to you make an incredible point because I know that this is like a plan that Triple H has had for a very long time, where he's wanted to have an NXT South America and NXT UK and NXT Japan.
It's just too much.
It's too much. I see what they're doing, and I understand why they're doing it. I would much rather see them almost be like a silent partner.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
With that. Just like they're doing with TNA, which I like. Yeah, I like that.
What they're doing with TNA right now makes so much sense, and it's been incredible to watch, and to like see tongue-in-cheek aspect of it, watching Elijah wrestle Matt Cardona on TNA. You're like, I'm still watching a WWE match, and what's really great is anytime I want to watch like a Dynamite match, I just have to tune in on Tuesdays because that's they always have repeats of Dynamite matches on Tuesday.
Yeah, I've actually never watched
NXT
TNA, so
it's NXT.
I was busting in NXT shops. That's all. Just because a lot of their guys are ex AEW guys, and what was on like one of the internet shows main events is now becoming like a Tuesday main event.
No.
Uh-oh.
Now you're still with us. You hear us, right?
Yeah,
you
we
hear
can
us?
we can hear you.
Yeah, my camera shut off?
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, it did. Yep.
That was
There you
weird.
go. You're back on.
That was weird.
All right. Well, you're back.
Thank God for camera edits, you know?
Yep. Personally, I've never actually watched TNA. I heard, I think like 10 years ago, like the TNA, did they go bankrupt or something? And then they were bought out
twice.
by Impact.
They were almost, the reason was they were almost about to be in a bankruptcy, and then they got bought out by another company.
Anthem.
But Anthem, yeah, they got bought out by Anthem, but they were almost to it. So to prevent that, they got bought out.
I see.
Yeah.
I guess before we get into, because I realized like, oh right, we still have a whole movie to talk about.
And not only like a whole movie to talk about, but like let's talk about pretty much one of the most important movies of all time, especially like a movie that's now I think more relevant than it's been, than ever, if we're really looking at where we're devolving to.
Oh, for sure.
I think it's one of the best, and it's something that was screaming, back in the day, and a movie that I've always been a huge fan of, and I loved all the music videos that came from it, and the style that came from it. People rocking the neon shorts and the Nikes were always a dope look. So with the boombox.
Yep. What? Before we get it, before we get into that, I guess my final question. What streaming and movie recommendations do you guys have for this week, if any?
Devil May Cry Netflix. It's an animated series based on the video game. It's pretty good.
All right, Devil May Cry. I think it sounds vaguely familiar.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, mine's gonna be like the most pop culture one that I think I'll ever gonna say. But if you have not seen the Thunderbolts, you need to go see the Thunderbolts. It was really well done. A solid 8.5, something that I was not expecting. Great tongue-in-cheek humor. Very, 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 very well written. Now I want to see a buddy cop film with Omega Red and not Omega Red, whatever. Red Guardian and Bucky. I want to see like a buddy cop film with the two of them.
Yes, give us Marvel's either
Lethal Weapon.
I was gonna say like Lethal Weapon or Bad Boys, Defiant Ones, 48 hours.
Probably more 48 hours than anything else.
For 48 hours.
Or actually Red Heat. I don't know if you guys remember that one.
Nah.
Red Heat was Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jim Belushi, and Arnold Schwarzenegger was a dude from Russia. And at one point he's like, "How would you handle this? We take the drug dealers out back and we shoot them in the head. Oh, how do you get around the politicians? We shot the politicians first."
So look for Red Heat in a future episode. I guess my recommendations, as far as streaming, Daredevil Born Again. If you haven't watched it yet, check it out. I mean, that series finale was okay. it's like that's I feel like that's my response to every Marvel movie or Marvel project that we've had this year. I'm like, okay, so I guess we can see where they're going forward. But yeah, check out Thunderbolts if you haven't already. I think I did an Instagram reel for that movie.
Yep.
I did a reel for Sinners. I mean, for the two people on the face of this planet who haven't seen that movie yet, go experience Sinners in theaters. See it twice if you can. I've only seen it once. I might have to see it again. I am going to try and catch the new Mission Impossible Final Reckoning this Friday. Tom Cruise. I realize Tom Cruise, I mean, not to make anyone feel old, but like Tom Cruise has been playing the same character, Ethan Hunt, longer than I've been alive.
Damn.
So.
Damn.
And with that, we're just going to end the episode. We're just going
to. Now we're going to do this film from the early 1900s.
Yes. Now we are going to finally start the episode properly, with, do the right thing. So, Preston, why don't you kick us off with the introduction?
On the hottest day of the year, on a street in the Bed-Stuy section of Brooklyn, everyone's hate and bigotry smolders and builds until it explodes into violence.
This film looks at life in the Bed-Stuy district of Brooklyn on a hot summer Sunday. As he does every day, Sal Figurino opens a pizzeria parlor he owned for 25 years. The neighborhood has changed considerably in the time he's been there and is now composed primarily of African American and Hispanics. His son Pino, what a great name for a kid, Pino. I'm going to name him Wine. That's great. Wonder if he has a drinking problem. No, sorry, my bad. His son Pino hates it there and would like nothing better than to relocate the eatery to their own neighborhood. For Sal, however, the restaurant represents something that is a part of his life and sees it as part of the community. What begins as a simple complaint by one of the customers bugging out, who wonders why he has only pictures of famous Italian Americans on the wall, and the customers are black, eventually disintegrates into violence as frustration seemingly brings out the worst in everyone.
This introduction and storyline are provided to us by IMDb. This movie is written, directed, produced, and starring Spike Lee. Spike Lee, again, how many of us haven't seen at least one of his movies? I did an audio commentary to Chirac 2 years ago for Juneteenth. And so, yeah, Spike Lee, Academy Award winner. I feel like this is really his breakout film. He's also directed She's Gotta Have It, his very first movie, 1986. Movie I'm probably never going to review. Malcolm X in 1992. That was my introduction to Spike Lee as a director. I own that movie on DVD now. It's funny, actually, the day we're recording it, it's May 18th. Tomorrow is actually Malcolm X's birthday. And when I was overseas in Micronesia, the last book I read cover to cover was the autobiography of Malcolm X. And then this time last year, I actually watched the movie. Finally, read the book cover to cover, and then watched the movie for like the fifth time. Such a great movie. And he's also directed The Five Bloods, Black Klansman. I could go on and on.
Starring Danny Aiello, Academy Award nominee as Sal, known for playing Mr. Johnny in Moonstruck, 1987. Tony in Leon the Professional, one of my favorite films, 1994. And Tommy Five Tone in Hudson Hawk, 1991.
Ossie Davis, Emmy nominated as the mayor.
Ossie Davis.
Ossie? Is it Ossie?
Yeah, it's
Ossie Davis.
Ossie Davis.
Ossie Davis.
Great actor.
Ossie Davis. Emmy nominated as the mayor, known for playing Chuck in Grumpy Old Men, 1993. Jack in Bubba Hotep, which is one of my favorite movies, 2002. And Harry Roosevelt in The Client, 1994.
And then Ossie Davis's wife in real life, although they do play enemies in this movie. Ossie Davis and Ruby Dee were married IRL. Ruby Dee is an Academy Award nominated actress who plays Mother's sister. She's known for playing Mama Lucas in American Gangster, one of my favorite Denzel performances. Lucinda Purify in Jungle Fever, 1991. Oh, American Gangster, 2007. Jungle Fever, 1991. If I'm not mistaken, that's also directed by Spike Lee. Yeah. And she also played Ruth Younger in A Raisin in the Sun, 1961. That was one of the movies that I taught in my film elective. So, and that's also a movie that we watched in my African American cinema class in college. So, without any further ado, let's go to Cobbs Corner. And we're back. So, right off the bat, I would, of course, like to just mention how the opening scene, like the opening, 15, 20 minutes of this movie, it just gives me that same sort of vibe as movies like Friday and Lottery Ticket. I don't know if any of you have seen, but have you
Mhm.
seen Lottery Ticket? It just gives me that sort of like slice of life, sort of hood film feel to it. It's like just kind of the neighborhood. Everybody's waking up. We're kind of being introduced to our cast of characters. There's Ossie Davis's character, the mayor. There's mother sister. There's Mookie, and I like how the movie doesn't just have just one protagonist. That's like, okay, technically Mookie is the protagonist, although he's more of a passive protagonist throughout the
Mhm.
film. But we also see, Bugging Out. There's Rosie Perez's character. There's, like I said, mother sister. There's the mayor. So everyone's kind of introduced, and throughout the film, everyone gets like a decent amount of like screen time and like character development, I guess. So yeah.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
just either or now.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
My bad. My bad. I thought
Yeah,
you
yeah,
were
no,
gonna lead
no.
into something.
I guess go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. Um. Just to clarify, we're going over favorite parts and what
Yeah,
parts
but
of the
yeah,
movie that spoke to us the best. Okay.
yeah, but yeah, just favorite
Um.
parts and themes.
Well, this movie has aged well, in my opinion, and was put out at the right time. I just wrote some notes. Radio Raheem's death is a direct precursor to the murders of Eric Garner, George
Mhm.
Floyd, and like countless others.
Rodney King.
It's just his "I can't breathe" moment came 30 years earlier with the whole boombox
Mhm.
incident.
Mm.
Police brutality and lack of accountability remains central in America right now, and it definitely focused on that, which I was happy about. Well, not happy about, but happy that it was brought up. The debate over Mookie's trash can and throwing mirrors of how modern protests are often judged more harshly than the injustices that trigger them. That's one thing that spoke out to me about this film, just watching it again. And just the wall of fame conversation, which is definitely spoken about to this day with Juan Carlos Esposito. It
Mhm.
speaks to representation still at the heart of today's cultural media and workplace of equity movements. It definitely speaks to you, and how the film anticipated of how marginalized voices use art like Radio Raheem's music to reclaim public space and mirroring current street art, music, and protest culture. So I think Spike Lee did a good job in just marrying that all together just through his eyes of how he perceives the world.
Uh, I definitely think that in the other reviews and analyses that I've seen of Do the Right Thing, there's the question of like the titles literally Do the Right Thing, and the mayor like he always he tells Mookie it's like always do the right thing.
Mhm.
There's a question of did and I don't have an official answer. Did Mookie do the right thing by throwing the trash can? Because before he throws the trash can, he even says hate, and then throws the trash can, and it's like you figure it's the hottest day.
Mhm.
It's the hottest day of the year. You got I forgot to mention my man Samuel L. Jackson as Mr. Senior Love Daddy, kind of the maybe the chorus of this movie.
Yeah, he's definitely the Greek chorus
He's
of the
definitely the
movie.
Greek chorus. You know, um, but yeah, it's like hottest day of the year. There's racial tension. The neighborhood is full of predominantly there's African Americans. There's Puerto Ricans. You got one Korean family. They've been able to successfully set up shop in a predominantly black and brown area. And there's all this heat and like racial tension, and and Mookie has like he goes throughout this film, like I said, as a passive protagonist. Like he doesn't really, do a whole lot. Like there's the whole scene where Bugging Out says, like, "Hey Mookie, how come the brothers up on the wall?" And like and of course Mookie ends up having to kind of kick Bugging Out. Ends up having to kick Bugging Out, and like he's really just trying to get paid. He's just trying to make it to the next day. And, there's all this other stuff going on around him. But then, you know, he finally, after I think it's after Radio Raheem like has his boombox crushed by a baseball bat,
Mhm.
which is of course resembling of a police club, police brutality. Mookie, he finally does something, and it's like you can only sit idly by and witness injustice and be an innocent bystander for so long before something's gotta be done. And I think that the fact that we have throughout the movie, you have Smiley trying to sell pictures of Malcolm and Martin, and they're two halves of one whole in their different philosophies of. And I'll actually read the quotes. The movie ends with two quotes, one from Dr. King and the other from Malcolm X. The quote from Dr. King says, "Violence as a way of achieving racial justice is both impractical and immoral. It is impractical because it is a descending spiral ending in destruction for all. The old law of an eye for an eye leaves everyone blind. It is immoral because it seeks to humiliate the opponent rather than win his understanding. It seeks to annihilate rather than to convert. Violence is immoral because it thrives on hatred rather than love. It destroys community and makes brotherhood impossible. It leaves society in monologue rather than dialogue. Violence ends by destroying itself. It creates bitterness in the survivors and brutality in the destroyers." And then that's followed up with Malcolm X's quote of, "I think there are plenty of good people in America, but there are also plenty of bad people in America. And the bad ones are the ones who seem to have all the power and be in these positions to block things that you and I need. Because this is a situation, you and I have to preserve the right to do what is necessary to bring an end to that situation. And it doesn't mean that I advocate violence, but at the same time, I am not against using violence in self-defense. I don't even call it violence when it's self-defense. I call it intelligence." So, the movie doesn't have sort of, and I think Spike Lee had even said this in an interview, it doesn't have that typical Steven Spielberg ending where it's like a happy ending, everybody's holding hands, singing Kumbaya. And, they're movies that, and I think that's probably a couple of Spike Lee's movies, that there is no one like definitive right answer. There's no one definitive solution to overcoming oppression, overcoming racism, because the reality is that this community, you know regardless of what happens, like, okay, Sal's is burned down and Radio Raheem is dead, and this community, they still have to, the sun is still going to come up, and they still have to find a way to move forward. We still have to find a way to actually be able to have that dialogue and have that conversation. And I think the movie ending not only with those two quotes, but ending with the names of family members, of men of people who have actually, victims of police brutality. And this was back in the 80s. This is before the Rodney King riots. I think perhaps the Radio Raheem, the riot at the end, was perhaps a foreshadowing of what was to come just 3 years later. And I think that this movie is 100% relevant. Here we are 36 years later. Like you said, I think you had said easy about the Eric Gardner and how about Eric Gardner and how, like, the "I can't breathe" moment,
that was actually Pete that said it. It was
okay. So was Preston. Like, it came 25 years later, and so I think that this movie should be, if I had my way, it would be mandatory viewing in every film class, in every school, because I think that conversation needs to be had.
Right.
I think, and I'll land my plane there. But
no, first of all, I love where you were going with your entire thought process. It's fantastic, and I love how you mentioned that it opens up the same way where it seems like Friday opens up and all these kind of things. But this was the movie that started that. You know what I'm saying? Like, they were paying tribute to this movie. They're paying tribute to that type of aspect of filmmaking. So I love that it's something that we can be seen over and over and over and over again. And it's something that has such a lasting, like, I remember watching the music video for Fight the Power and it being, the march down in New York City and different stuff like that. And I believe that had had so much to do with every aspect of things going through. And yes, it was in the 80s. And, yes, there were the riots that happened years afterwards, but we cannot forget about the Chicago riots. We cannot forget about, the riots that came before. We can't forget about, the riot in New York City that, has led us to having, more rights for the LGBTQ plus community, the Stonewall riots. These riots have happened before. And they said, and I believe it was Dr. King that said, rioting is the language of the voiceless.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I mean, of course, there's times where it's almost like on a case by case basis, and I think that iconic photo of Dr. King and Malcolm X, is very perfect for this film because again, and this film, it doesn't give an exact answer. Again, there's no kumbaya ending. It just kind of begs sort of the rhetorical question of like, is what Mookie did, did he do the right thing? Did anyone in this movie do the right thing? The police definitely did the wrong thing, of course, but at times, is it important? At times, is it maybe necessary to? Is it necessary maybe to, and I'm gonna sound like Wilson Fisk, but is it necessary to break the peace, in order to move forward and have that triumph and have that victory over racism and over oppression,
Well, I need to quote one of my favorite movies, Boondock Saints. Evil only wins when good men do nothing. You know what I'm saying? And that has a lot to do with it. So just the fact that he did something was doing the right thing for that moment. Just the fact that he actually took a step outside himself and, went further and represented for the community itself and took a stand for the community itself. It was the right thing for the moment. Was it necessarily the right thing to have, the pizzeria burned down? No, not at all. Because, no one wants to see that's also, these people's livelihood. We never want to see someone else's livelihood get destroyed, but representation is so super important. And if you're not going to be there for the community, then you need to be there for the community. And I think that has a lot to do with it. And I think that a lot moving forward, as we do move forward in this crazy world that we're living in right now, I think community is one of the top things that's going to help us grow. And help us, move forward is the community you surround yourself with. And that's why it's awesome to be in the community of New Haven, because there are these incredible people in these incredible places. And if you want to see or hear from any of them, make sure you tune in to WNHH 103.5 FM New Haven for the Preston and EZ Bluez show, because we have a bunch of interesting people on the show all the time.
Yeah. Yes, definitely plug as much as you want. I think, and I can't remember the YouTuber's name, but he did a video essay on the Rush Hour franchise and how perfect that we're actually in Asian and Pacific Islander month. Big shout out to all of my listeners who are members of the Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander communities. Salute. Stay tuned for my Rush Hour audio commentary at some point. Talked about how Rush Hour, the first one, it came out in 1998. And how really it's a satirization of actual tensions that there were between the American and Asian communities. And I think it's perfect that there's the Korean community, there's the Korean family that lives in that Black neighborhood, because during the LA riots, a lot of, Vietnamese and Korean, Cambodian, Chinese businesses got looted and got burned down. There's a movie called Gook. I think it's on Amazon Prime. I guess
check it out.
Oh, well, I guess trigger warning in advance. I forgot to.
It's okay.
Right. But yeah, there's the movie. It's called Gook, and it's entirely in black and white. It's I think it's an independent film directed by. It's got, I think, Steven Yeun, who played Glenn on The Walking Dead. I think
Nice.
he's in that movie, and a it's about like a Korean owned sneaker store that like there's a Korean family that like owns a sneaker store, or the dad owns a sneaker store, and then he's working with his sons, and there's a black girl who's from the neighborhood that she usually sticks sticks around there, and like I don't have the exact synopsis in front of me right now, but like their sneaker store, the Rodney King riots happen, and like their sneaker store ends up getting attacked, and the father who has military training, because the military is mandatory in Korea, like he's in like full on like battle mode, and like in his like in his van. And so, that's a movie that definitely deals with the tensions between, between Black and Asian communities, because a lot of the, Asian people who had served in those communities, who would kind of come over to the United States, many of them are fleeing communism, dictatorships, genocide, and they come over here to America. They settled in, New York City, San Francisco, LA, and they're serving lower income, predominantly Black and brown communities, but their money is not going to that community. And at the same time, they're immigrants themselves, they're fleeing their own oppression, and they probably got family members back home. They're probably raising enough money so they can bring the rest of their family over stateside. So it's like they came here with like their own agenda, and how after the LA riots happened in 92, a lot of Korean and Asian owned businesses were burned down, were looted. And so for a while there was a little bit of like tension, you could say, between the Black community and the Asian community. There's even an episode of Middle Ground. There's the YouTube channel Jubilee. I don't know if I talked about them on the
Mhm.
podcast. They did an episode of Middle Ground with African Americans and Asian Americans, and
Mhm.
they kind of talked about like the relationship that the two communities have had, and both communities have been victims of white supremacy, and so I mean, so movies like Rush Hour really like kind of satirized that time period. Dare I say, I mean, that's almost a movie that can't happen today, but like
No, it totally could. It could totally happen today, as long as no one's punching down. That's one of the key parts of that. And talking about tension that goes generations upon generations upon generations. There was, for the longest time, there's some really horrible colloquial sayings, like there used to be the saying of to have a Chinaman's chance, and that was because when they were making the railroads, they would send down, they were the lightest of the people, they would send down Chinese people to stick the dynamite into the mountain, and then they pull them up as quick as possible, and if they had that chance to not die. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. So like, this is years upon years upon, conditioning from having the, white power demographic really harping on the other classes to, make them fight over that one measly crumb. And we see this now today, even louder than we saw it 37 years ago. We're seeing it play out now in the grander stage of things. So, I think it's super interesting, and I do feel that a movie like this should be in every single schoolhouse. I don't care about the language that was used in it, because it's language appropriate for how serious the topic really is.
oh yeah, no, no. Um, well, well, I guess we'll hear more about the movie's criticism in the trivia. But
Right.
I think that Spike Lee, I think this might have been his breakout film. I know this was his third film,
Hmm.
and he does have a tendency to recycle cast members. Like I know he worked with, the late great Bill Nunn, God rest his soul. That was his Morehouse brother,
Hmm.
who was in School Days and Do the Right Thing. Ossie Davis, again, R.I.P., was in both School Days and Do the Right Thing. I have realized, like, in the Spike Lee movies that I've seen, is that he has a tendency to kind of give us the racial satire, give us the give the racial satire and the cultural satire, with movies like Do the Right Thing and like School Days and like Crooklyn, which is like a semi-autobiographical film about himself, and it's one other, Chirac, to kind of give us the cultural satire, the racial satire, but also addressing the social issues. And I think that this movie does it perfectly. I think, there are some laughs. You know, there's some laughs. There's some fun scenes. There's some not so fun scenes. There's scenes where it's like, yeah, the setting is like racial tension, but it's like you don't know if it's gonna end in just a funny scene. Like you don't know if it's just gonna be played off for laughs, or if it's gonna, like we saw the ending of the movie, ends in a riot. Like I'm thinking back to like the scene where there's the signs of gentrification. Like there's the one white guy like with the bicycle, and he says, oh, I was born in Brooklyn. It's a free country. I can, I bought this brownstone and then bugging out, it's like, who told you to buy a brownstone on my who told you to buy a brownstone in my neighborhood on my side of the street? It's like you done scuffed up my new Jordans. I paid $100 for it. So yeah, like, there's those funny scenes. I actually did the inflation calculation. $100 in 1989 is the equivalent of $258 in today's money. So,
which is the price of like a regular set of Jordans.
I'm in the wrong industry.
Let's be real. I mean, there are some Jordans out there, and we like P and I know some sneakerheads out there. One of the interviews that we had was with a podcast producer, and he was really into sneakers, and he's like, I will not spend $10,000 on a sneaker. And both P and I were like, you have $10,000 to spend on a sneaker? And I'm like, word. I need to learn how you did it.
Yeah.
So
$10,000. Like, I need electricity.
Yeah.
It's like that's gonna cost you $5,000.02. I don't got the 2 cents. You good?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, yeah, you got all the nice sneakers on, all the fly clothes, but then you just show up, but then you just come home and you just try to turn on the light, and it's just like, wait, what?
Yeah, lights don't work. Lights don't work. But then again, you have that other stuff like, hey, I got candles anyway. So so it's good to go.
Yes. Crooklyn reference, of course.
Actually, I was using the Cat Williams reference for that, to be honest.
Oh, okay. Yep.
He's talking about THC having the ducket chemical.
Ducket chemical. Okay.
Yeah.
Big shout out to Cat Williams, and I can't wait to have you on the podcast.
That's my favorite bit. That's my favorite bit. And everybody that I see that's going to be on this podcast, I can't wait to be like, I remember when you said, I can't wait to have you on the podcast. That's going to be dope. That's going to be dope to sit and watch. That's a bit that's going to pay off in the end. I really appreciate that bit.
Oh yeah, definitely. Mr. Williams, Mr. Sheldon Spike Lee had to bust out the government name. Can't wait to have you on. Can't wait to have you on the podcast one of these days. I guess maybe the last thing I'll maybe say for this segment is that there was an interview. I think Denzel Washington. He was on. I think he was interviewed by Karen Hunter. She's on Sirius XM. Big shout out to Karen Hunter. And she had said something about like, why does there have to be a black director for movies that are like Do the Right Thing, movies that are like hood movies? And Denzel's response was that it's not color, it's culture. It's like, what it's like when a hot comb hits your hair at and he even pointed out how Martin Scorsese directed Taxi Driver and Goodfellas. Steven Spielberg, he directed Schindler's List and E.T. and Jaws. And how I'll even take it a step further. Spike Lee, he directed Do the Right Thing, School Days, Crooklyn. John Singleton directed Baby Boy, Boys in the Hood, and there's an alternate universe where Spike Lee could have directed a movie about South Central Los Angeles and Compton, but there's a difference where when you're from that neighborhood, when you grew up in that neighborhood in that time period, you know, like, or in the case of Spike Lee, like when you went to Morehouse, when you witnessed the whole,
There's an authenticity to it.
yeah, it's like, yeah, there's that authenticity, like when you're actually from there, and it's like, not saying that, not saying that Martin Scorsese couldn't have directed E.T. or Schindler's List, or that Steven Spielberg could not have directed Goodfellas, but it just wouldn't have been as good, like when you have someone who's actually from that community, from that time period, then there's that like level of authenticity.
It's kind of like putting up Joss Stone versus Nina Simone or Billie Holiday or something like that. Joss Stone's got an incredible voice, but if I really want to hear someone cry through the music, I'm gonna listen to Billie Holiday, because her lived experience was a lot rougher and a lot more. She had more to be in pain about. So that's kind of how I look at it, and it's very true. You could have the perspective, but it's never going to be the exact perspective. My kids are growing up in New Haven, and they're not going to have the same perspective that someone of color is growing up in New Haven, and we live in the same city. You know what I'm saying? They go to the same school thing, but there's certain differences that'll happen. I remember when we first moved out here, everyone was like, "Oh, it's terrifying. You're going to move out there, gun wave in New Haven." Bro, it's been chill. You know what I'm saying? It's been an experience in which I've gotten out of what I've put into it. And I think that's something that's really big in the do the right thing aspect of it, is it really was when you're no longer representing the community, do you need to be there? And that's what's huge, because, yes, this person was celebrating his familial aspect of it, but he wasn't celebrating the community around him. And the community around him was growing and blossoming and hurting. I mean, he wasn't doing anything to help really cultivate that community and help it grow and help it think, So that's really what it came down to. And a lot more of it had to do with, the son who wanted to get out of there because, it's no longer seeing his people and blah, 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 blah. You have that type of ignorance and that type of hatred that comes from the other side. That is just terrifying. And then a lot of that comes from fear. One of the things I talk about all the time, we've talked about it on the show 1.5 billion times, is one of the things that killed me was going into the Army and seeing a whole bunch of kids who've never dealt with anybody who didn't look like them. And to see that culture shock to the first person of color that this young soldier is seeing is his drill sergeant saying some very horrible things to him. Very horrible things. There's a culture shock there, especially that fear is going to sneak up and sneak through, and what you were raised on is what's going to be there until you're broken from it and you're actually spending time in that other culture and embracing that other culture, so that now that other culture is now part of your culture, which is something that one of the reasons why I moved to New Haven is because it's one of the most multicultural places out there. There's a couple of synagogues, a couple of mosques, and a bunch of churches throughout here. And, I know that my kids can walk into any of them and find a definition of God. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah, dope. I mean, for me, I guess for me, I definitely hear what you're saying, Easy. For myself as a Black kid who's from the suburbs, like I grew up in Naugatuck. I never went to school in Naugatuck. I always went to school in New Haven. So I sort of had that duality of like, I live in a town where it's like I can probably count on one hand the amount of like, BIPOC or POCs that I see in a day, in a day or in a year, although Naugatuck is more diverse now than it was, 15 years ago. But I had sort of that experience, at home, and having neighbors who didn't look like me, but going to school with kids who looked like me. And being that I went to a magnet school, I've going to school with some kids are from New Haven and West Haven, from the greater New Haven area, and then there's also students who are from Naugatuck and from Beacon Falls and Seymour, Oxford, like kind of the valley, up our way, or as my grandmother refers to it as the country.
The country.
The country. Yep. Yep. So I guess I had that duality, and you know, I am also an Eagle Scout, and my Boy Scout troop, shout out to Troop 5 in Middlebury, Connecticut. I was probably one of like two Black Scouts. I mean, in my troop, and I actually knew the other Black Scout. And there was some meetings, some campouts. I'm the only POC in the building. So
Yeah.
like learning how to not I don't want to say code switch, because I feel like that's
No, but
triggering,
that's
but
exactly
like,
but that's exactly what was going on. And like my kids did a leap out here in New Haven. And there were trips where they were the only white kids that were going out, with these field trips or these, camping trips and the different aspect of it. So to a point, I understand, where they're going to have a different side and a different perspective than somebody else, and I remember watching Cold Case with my younger two. And then they're doing this one episode about this really abusive father. And that's when like my kids all of a sudden was like, wow, the fact that he asked us to do our homework is actually not that bad. And we've got it really good right now. I can't believe, some parents, literally beat the living daylights out of these kids. I've never, that blows my mind. I can't believe that's true. And they're like, oh, we're so appreciative of you being our parent. Thank you so much for not being a scumbag, so.
wow. Yeah. 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 But I guess for this movie, I guess to kind of wrap it all up nicely and put a bow on it. The movie deals with themes of and Preston, feel free to chime in at
course.
any
Of course,
point.
yeah.
I think this movie deals with the themes of like understanding of awareness, of like awareness, understanding, just being able to have a dialogue, between the like you said, easy, between all members of all, you know, ages and races, in that community. And because even although Bugging Out probably could have gone about it a different way, saying how like it's like you only got Italian Americans up on the wall. I don't see any Italian Americans here in this restaurant. I see nothing but black folks, and we don't see any black folks on the Wall of Fame. So being able to meet the needs of the community, and of course Sal was very dismissive. He said oh, like you want like, oh, you want to have a you want to put up some brothers. Well, you can go open up your own pizza spot and have your own
Right.
wall of fame. Which, I mean, that's a perspective, but I also think that you have to be cognizant and be considerate of the needs and the wants of the people that you're serving, of your
Mhm.
clientele. Sal seems to be the kind of person who's just all business, and it's like, hey, I'm making money, and I got my I got my business, I got my property in this neighborhood, and I don't need to be aware of any sort of like animosity, or like, oh, it's all just business. So yeah, like being able to sort of not be all business all the time, be able to actually, like, have a conversation, with the people around you, and with the communities that you serve, the circles that you work in, and understanding. And again, there is no one right answer of like, when is it okay to riot, when is it okay to just peacefully protest, and patient outreach. I mean, it almost reminds me of, and I think this is kind of contrary to the ending of Black Panther, in that Killmonger technically loses in the end. Like his whole agenda is, the world's gonna start over, and this time we're on top. We need to, essentially wage war on the world and, arm oppressed people so they can kill those in power. We need a violent revolution. That's the only real solution. And, stripping Wakanda of its uniqueness. I want to make Wakanda just like everywhere else. There's that take, but then there's also, ultimately the the agenda of T'Challa triumphs in the end, and he does eventually open up Wakanda to the rest of the world. And that's kind of like a Hollywood ending type, but again, with Do the Right Thing, there is no one real answer. Like
Sure.
it's like Radio Raheem says, like with like the whole love and hate, it's like it's that static. It's that
Yeah,
in
the whole
it's that
title itself is a question. I agree.
Right.
no.
I totally agree.
So yeah, it's that static of, being in between love and hate, and when do we kind of use the system, and when is that, outreach and that challenging of the system peacefully, non-violently, to challenge the system and to change the system maybe from within, and when do we need to actually demand some action and demand change, demand tangibles, and violently if absolutely necessary. But yeah, I mean, that's all I got for for Do the Right Thing. This movie is, whew, yeah, is a complete banger of an episode. Is banger of a movie. My bad.
It's a banger of an episode, though, too.
Yes,
Let's bask in the awesomeness of this episode.
Of course,
Absolutely.
Of course. Yeah. But yeah, this movie is like probably like at some point I got to do like Spike Lee's top 10 movies, because I mean, this isn't this is top 5, but like I'd have to watch every single one of his movies and then do like my top 10 ranking, because I feel like somewhere in the top 10 you gotta put Do the Right Thing. I feel like you gotta put Malcolm X, maybe Crooklyn, Black Klansman. Although I'm biased because that's the only Spike Lee movie I've seen in theaters. But yeah, that's about it for the summary and analysis of Do the Right Thing. On to Do the Right Thing Plus. All right, so Do the Right Thing Plus. In total, the movie was only nominated for 2 Oscars. It had 21 award wins and 19 nominations total for other award shows. Preston, why don't you kick us off?
1990 Oscar nominee, Best Actor in a Supporting Role, Danny Aiello, lost to Denzel Washington in Glory, 1989. Wow.
1989 was a good year for movies, because this is also 1989 nominated for the Oscar for Best Writing Screenplay written by and directed directly for the Scream, Spike Lee, but he lost to Tom Schulman for Dead Poet Society, which was also a phenomenally well written movie.
Yeah. 1989 was a year for cinema.
I agree.
Is that Batman too? Didn't Batman come out in 89?
It did.
Batman 89.
Yep, 1989. Yep, the Michael Keaton, Jack Nicholson. Oh, right, the Batman movie where Michael Keaton couldn't turn his head. Yep.
Yes.
He couldn't turn his head. On to trivia. During the 1990 Oscar ceremony, while announcing the Best Picture nominee, Kim Basinger caused some controversy when she ignored her scripted text and said, "We've got 5 great films here, and they're great for one reason, because they tell the truth. But there's one film missing from the list that deserves to be on it, because ironically, it might tell the biggest truth of all, and that's Do the Right Thing." Spike Lee would later thank her for it in a 2019 episode of the podcast Unspooled.
All of the scenes of the Corner Men, Robin Harris, Paul Benjamin, and Frankie Faison were improvised.
Despite the mayor, Ossie Davis, and mother's sister, Ruby Dee, being enemies in the film, the actors were actually husband and wife in real life and frequently performed together until Davis's death in 2005. The two would appear in later film done by Lee, Jungle Fever '91, where they played a married couple.
Yeah, it's almost like a bit of method acting. It's like, we're married in real life. Let's play husband and wife. What was I gonna say about the scenes with the quartermen being improvised? I mean, yeah, that I could see.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, was
100%.
was Frankie Faison the one who was in the House Party movies? Like he played the dad in House Party, and then he died. Like,
No, I think you're thinking about Harris.
That's
either Roger or Robert Harris.
Okay, that's Robin Harris. All right.
I think Robin Harris. I think that's who you're thinking of. He's looking right now in the interwebs.
Okay. Spike Lee criticized several white critics for their perceived racist reviews in which they stated that the movie would incite anger and cause riots in the black population. And if this were to happen, the blood would be on Lee's hands. Lee defended his movie by stating that if white people can contain themselves from causing trouble after seeing movie violence in Arnold Schwarzenegger films, then so can black people. He would later praise Roger Ebert as one of the few white critics who understood the film's message of mutual understanding.
To answer your question with Frankie Faison, is no, he was not in House Party, but he was the landlord in Coming to America.
I see. Yep. That's where I've seen him.
Yeah.
Plus, I think his kid, Donald Faison.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It's like, the old falling down the stairs trick.
Yep. Radio Raheem's explanation of love and hate rings he wears is a homage to the speech that Robert Mitchum's preacher gives in The Night of the Hunter, 1955, one of Spike Lee's favorite movies. The preacher has love and hate tattoos on his hands.
Yeah, Spike Lee is a real cinephile.
Oh yeah,
and you can see that. It's one of the most incredible things to when someone who truly loves what they do can put that love into it. You see amazing works of art like Do the Right Thing. User review: Spike Lee's best work, mind-blowing masterpiece of cinema. 10 out of 10. April 30th, 2001. Wow. Okay. Do the Right Thing is powerful, uplifting, visually stunning masterpiece. It is a movie that I can watch over and over again, and deservedly takes the number 7 spot on my favorite movies of all time. This was one of Spike Lee's debut efforts, and until this day, the best one. Spike gives an honest, unflinching look at Bed-Stuy area of Brooklyn on the hottest day of the summer. He perfectly displays the racial tensions that go on in between everybody, from blacks to whites to Koreans. Yet he never gets preachy, which is one of the brilliant things about this movie. Some of Spike's best works is demonstrated in these shots of Radio Raheem, played excellently by Bill Noon. Radio Raheem doesn't say much, but he's the violent gaze which sums up his feelings without a word being said. Spike has some great angles of his face, demonstrating the pure rage brewing inside of him. He also has great sense for which sums up the meanings of love and hate. In Spike's trademark poetry in motion style, Radio Raheem constantly carries around a boombox playing the same song, Fight the Power by Public Enemy. One of my favorite songs. That song is one of the best musical themes in movie history, perfectly summing up the racial tension among the inner cities. This movie doesn't tell its audience that black people are better than others, nor does it say Hispanics are, or whites, or Asians. It's just this raw look at what happens when we let racial quarrels get out of hand. We learn how sometimes it's appropriate to preach against racism, and sometimes we're just overreacting. The cast is terrific, and they deliver memorable performances. I really wish Danny Aiello picked up the Oscar for his role as Sal. because it was definitely the pinnacle performance of his career and one of the best I've ever seen. Other noteworthy performances were from John Turturro, Ossie Davis, and Giancarlo Esposito. This film is put together with such fast-paced editing that it doesn't once get boring. It doesn't have any low points. This is a gritty, memorable film that I wish I could be considered more prominent in the eyes of the average moviegoer, because it really deserves great recognition for its unique, unforgettable style. Spike Lee definitely knows how to do the right thing. My score is 10 out of 10.
That's a bit of a lengthy review, but I
I've noticed you assign me all the really long parts.
Yeah,
I
found it funny.
I feel like, you see, it's kind of not intentional because like I set up the script. It's like I let Preston and Easy and then me. It's like a cycle.
They did it in chronological order.
Yeah. In chronological order. So the movie has an IMDb rating of 8 out of 10 stars.
Letterboxd score 4.4 out of 5 stars.
Release date July 21st, 1989.
Country of origin is United States.
Languages: English, Italian, Spanish, and Korean.
Also known as Has Lo Correcto.
I forget which country that is a release title for and what language that is, but it sounds Italian. So
Sounds Italian or Latin.
yeah. Filming locations, I think the block that Do the Right Thing was filmed on was renamed Do the Right Thing Way. Spike Lee said in an interview
That's
with
right.
the New York
Correct.
Times. Yep. Filming locations, Stuyvesant, well, I guess Do the Right Thing Way, FKA Stuyvesant Street in the Bedford-Stuyvesant, Brooklyn, New York.
Production company 40 Acres and a Mule Filmworks.
Yeah.
Box office budget was 6.5 million estimated, which in today's market is 16.7 million for 2025.
I guess that's considered low budget, I feel like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Most definitely.
Yeah, because usually like because usually mid budget is like 100, 125 million, but then like 200 plus million, like, yeah, that's high budget. Its gross domestic box office in the U.S. and Canada, it hauled in $27,545,445, which translates to about 70.9 or $71 million in today's money. So big payday.
The gross worldwide was $37,295,445. About 96 million today in 2025.
Rotten Tomatoes tomato meter score was a 92%.
Audience score was at 89%.
Critic consensus, if I can barely speak, smart, vibrant, and urgent without being dyadic. Do the Right Thing is one of Spike Lee's most fully realized efforts and one of the most important films of the 1980s.
Where to watch? Watch Do the Right Thing on Netflix. Buy Rent on Fandango at home, or buy on Fandango also at home.
Yeah, I think it's also available for purchase on like YouTube and
Amazon and all those.
Amazon. Yeah. Yep. So thank you, Preston and EZ Bluez, for joining me on this AFI Top 100. Thank you for doing, we did Rocky, Platoon, Pulp Fiction, and now Do the Right Thing. To my listeners, go and listen to, the other 3 episodes along with this one. The Preston and EZ Bluez AFI series. I guess the Preston and EZ Bluez edition of Cobbs Corner AFI series. So, I'm gonna have other guests in the coming episodes. Before we officially sign off, just I give you guys the floor, let the listeners know where where they can find you guys, where they can listen to your podcast, social medias, what you guys have coming up, what you've done in the past couple weeks. Just plug away.
I'll start. Find us on Preston EZ Bluez. That's EZ Bluez. Preston Preston EZ, the letters EZ, BLUE, then the letter Z _ WNHH. Preston EZ Bluez _ NHH. Just for those who are wondering, on Instagram, you can check out our full library over there. And also check us out on the New Haven Independent Facebook page. Every Monday and Friday from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can check out a whole bunch of great material from us there. Our latest episodes premiering on Monday and Fridays, 12 to 1 Eastern Standard Time. And as far as anything else coming up, I know we're going to be at the Heartbeat Festival. That's going to be in June, and we're going to do some coverage over there. We're supporting EZ's band Shane Penguin. He's the front runner of that whole great group over there. And as far as upcoming events for the show, I think we're good for now. Times do change, but I'm gonna have EZ take the man to promote his projects. Go ahead, Bob.
Well, there's also amazing, and if you want to get in contact with either one of us, obviously go to the Preston and EZ Bluez WNHH, and you can get in contact with us. But yes, we have the Heartbeat Festival coming up on the 14th of June, where we'll be playing in Hartford, and we'll be doing some show footage of there, trying to cover that as well. I think we're going to try to do the same thing at the Shoreline Music Festival, which is going to be in July. And that's at Armada Brewing, right here in New Haven. So if you want a good beer and some great music, then you're going to want to go to Armada Brewing on July 12th. And we're going to be rocking and rolling from that set. And the ticket price is incredible. It's $25 for 28 bands. That is really, it is in today's market, that is just absolutely ridiculous. That's like getting the 1989, budget through today.
Yeah, for sure. I might have to. You said it's Armada Brewing in New Haven.
Armada Brewing. I got tickets. If you want to come talk to me, I got tickets. You can grab the ticket from me.
Okay.
Yeah.
I might have to swing. Might have to swing down by there. You said, and it's going to be like indie bands and.
Yeah, it's 25 indie bands. It's actually a it's a DIY festival.
DIY fest.
Yeah, they actually put this together for the past couple of years, and it's been growing amazingly. You get almost like a feel of Vans Warped Tour.
All right.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, definitely check out Heartbeat Festival and the Shoreline Fest. Definitely go listen to Shane Penguin. Go listen to Preston and EZ Bluez, and that's all I got for today's review of Do the Right Thing. If you like what you heard today, as always, give this podcast a 5-star rating and review wherever you are listening from. Feel free to leave us a written review on Apple. For those of you on Apple Podcasts, feel free to leave us a written review. Even to the YouTube audience, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, click that bell so you get notified whenever I upload new episodes. And if you want to stay up to date on all things Cobbs Corner, then follow me on Instagram at Cobbs_Corner_podcast. I'm on Instagram. That's Instagram and Threads. I'm on TikTok at Cobbs Corner Podcast, all lowercase, no spaces, and on Letterboxd as well. I'm starting to do more things on Letterboxd.
Nice.
All those links are in the description below. And is it also cool if I put your guys's
put all the information.
Social media. So Preston and EZ Bluez, their Instagram handles will also be in the show notes below.
Appreciate that.
Feel free to email me with comments, suggestions, etc. At cobbscornerpodcast@gmail.com. If you made it to the end of this episode, I greatly appreciate it. Click the video on the screen right now to listen to our review of Pulp Fiction. I hope you guys enjoyed your stay here at Cobbs Corner. As always, I will talk to all of you in the next episode. This is Morgan Cobbs signing off, telling you to fight the power. Peace.
Let's go.